The 13 Tom and Jerry shorts made by the Czechoslovakian director Gene Deitch are infamous for their poor quality and rather disturbing nature, featuring badly done sound effects and animation and having a more realistic feel to the violence. Some have speculated that Deitch didn't like the concept behind Tom and Jerry and was pressured into making them, and wanted to make the people who watched his take on it feel bad for liking the concept. What many people don't know is that Deitch was originally signed on to make more than the 13 episodes the public has access to. Desperate to get out of his contract, Deitch made one more Tom and Jerry short that few have ever seen. The short was called Tom's Basement. It opened with Tom in a typical Tom and Jerry house. His owner was the fat, angry guy from other Deitch shorts. Tom's owner seemed even angrier than in his other appearances. The first scene is him stomping on Tom's tail in a very realistic and painful looking way because Tom is sleeping by the basement door. The owner yells at Tom to never go down there. Tom is clearly terrified and runs away to another room. Our view stays in the room by the basement door, and we see Jerry come out of a mouse hole. He looks truly grotesque, far more off-model than in the other Deitch shorts. He gets an evil look on his face and follows Tom into the next room. The next few minutes are fairly formulaic. Jerry repeatedly manages to trick Tom into chasing him to the basement door a few times, but each time the owner catches Tom, he inflicts a painful-looking injury on him, which stay with Tom even after the scene ends. After 3 beatings, Tom is bruised all over, bleeding in a few places and limping on a broken leg. After this, Tom starts to literally beg Jerry not to bother him anymore. He's not really talking, but he's crying and mumbling, and you can tell what he's doing by his body language. Jerry just laughs at him and pushes him back to the basement door. The owner catches Tom again and goes ballistic. The camera zooms in on his face. It changes color and distorts as he yells at Tom in a much louder voice than any other sound in the cartoon. I can't post most of what he said on here, but it's definitely vicious and furious. It seems like Jerry has finally decided to take pity on Tom though. Jerry picks up a knife that was lying around and stabs the owner in the leg, quite graphically. Tom opens the basement door and they carry the owner's body down there. There are dozens of other bodies down there, decaying and showing signs of their violent deaths. Tom and Jerry shake hands, and it seems like they've triumphed over the serial killer. But Jerry gets an evil look on his face, and Tom says in that ghostly, deep voice, "Don't you believe it?" Jerry stabs Tom, killing him, and throws his body into the pile. The last shot is Jerry putting up a "for sale" sign on the yard of the house, laughing, clearly planning to do it all again. The 13 Tom and Jerry shorts made by the Czechoslovakian director Gene Deitch are infamous for their poor quality and rather disturbing nature, especially the 14th short, known as Tom's Basement, in which Tom is chasing Jerry and Tom tries to go into the basement, but Tom's owner catches him and beats him into a bloody pulp. It ends with Jerry eventually killing the owner and Tom, and then putting a "for sale" sign on the yard of the house, laughing, clearly planning to do it all again. But that wasn't the only infamous episode. In fact, there was a 15th short made by the Czechoslovakian director, known as Tom's Basement 2. It starts out with a new owner moving into the house with a pet, a cat named Butch. While the owner was moving all of their belongings in, Butch was taking a stroll around the house. He seemed to enjoy his new home, but eventually he saw Jerry. Jerry looked at him and started making faces and taunting him, prompting Butch to chase him. He inevitably failed, and he decided he would try again some other time. After a few days, Butch was relaxing when he saw Jerry once more. Jerry again started taunting him, again prompting Butch to chase him. But as he was chasing him, Jerry led Butch to the basement. Jerry had managed to open the door and run down the stairs. Butch followed by running down the stairs as well. But as he was beginning to descend the flight of stairs, something tripped him, and he tumbled and fell down the stairs, breaking his leg as he landed on the cold, hard ground. When Butch looked up, he saw what had tripped him. It was the ghost of Tom, who then said in a ghostly voice, "Don't you believe it?" In which after, the ghost of Tom disappeared. Butch laid on the ground of the basement in pain, wondering what had just happened. But out of the corner of his eye, he saw Jerry. He saw Jerry, but with a knife. Butch looked to Jerry's side and saw his dead owner, who Jerry had brutally murdered. Jerry then walked towards Butch, knife in hand. Once Jerry had reached Butch, he began to stab him repeatedly. Jerry had killed Butch, just like he had done to Tom. Jerry walked outside with the same for sale sign that he had put up after he had killed Tom. He set up the for sale sign and was planning to do it once more for a third time. The 13 Tom and Jerry shorts made by the Czechoslovakian director Gene Deitch are infamous for their poor quality and rather disturbing nature, featuring badly done sound effects and animation and having a more realistic feel to the violence. But what some don't know is that there is a 14th and even 15th episode that are both equally horrifying. The 14th episode is about Jerry killing Tom and his angry owner. And the 15th episode is about Jerry killing Butch and the new owner that moved into the house that Tom and his angry owner were murdered in. And the murders happened in the basement, giving the episodes the title Tom's Basement. But it goes even deeper than that. There is in fact a 16th episode, only known as Tom's Basement 3. It opens with Jerry putting up a for sale sign after he had brutally murdered Butch and his owner. But no one would move into the house since 2 of its owners had died. And so that just left Jerry in the house all alone. This went on for an undetermined amount of time, but we can assume that it took place over a long period of time. At this point, Jerry started to slip deeper and deeper into his insanity. All Jerry did every day was walk around the house, thinking of how he would murder the next owner. But one day, as Jerry was walking around the house, thinking to himself, he saw something. What he saw chilled him to the core. He saw Tom's ghost. And when he saw Tom's ghost, Tom was holding a knife. Tom's ghost began to chase Jerry. And Jerry ran in fear. Tom's ghost chased Jerry to the old wooden basement door. The door was open, and Jerry ran down a flight of stairs. Tom's ghost followed. Once Jerry had reached the basement floor, he looked behind him and saw Tom's ghost right in front of him. The ghost of Tom started to slowly walk towards Jerry, and Jerry started stepping back in fear. The next scene is Tom yelling, "Don't you believe it," at Jerry. And then Tom's ghost kills Jerry, finally taking revenge for all the suffering that Jerry had put him through. And now, the ghost of Tom could finally rest easy, knowing now that the violent murderer who had killed him was finally dead. A new owner with a dog named Spike had moved into the house that two previous owners, Tom, Butch, and Jerry, had all died. The owner didn't know the terrible history of the house they were moving into, and they thought it was just as normal as a house as any other. So the new owner started moving in with no problem, and Spike had started to like his new house. But little did they know that something evil was lurking in the shadows. After a few days, Spike started to explore his new house. He explored the main floor and also the upstairs. And as he was looking around, he discovered the basement. He walked down the dark stairs, and once he had reached the floor, he started to look around. And as he was looking around, from the corner of the eye, Spike thought he saw something. And when he turned to look, what he saw terrified him. He saw what looked to be a mouse's ghost. It was Jerry's ghost. This scared him, so he ran back upstairs and tried to forget about what he had just seen. About a week had passed, and Spike had forgotten all about what he had seen in the basement. Spike went to go look for his owner, but couldn't find his owner. Spike looked all through the house, upstairs and on the main floor, but he still couldn't find him. Then Spike remembered the basement. But Spike had also remembered what he had seen in the basement. But he decided to go and see if his owner was down there. As Spike was walking down the stairs to the basement, he got closer and closer to something horrible. Once Spike had reached the basement floor, he saw his dead owner. His owner was covered in a pool of blood and looked to have multiple stab wounds all over their body. Then he saw something else. He saw Jerry's ghost holding a knife. Spike tried to run away, but when he ran up the stairs, the door slammed shut. It was then as if he was pulled by something and thrown to the ground. This was all Jerry's doing. Spike, laying on the floor, looked in horror as Jerry's ghost started to slowly walk towards him. At this point, Spike started to panic, and he tried to move, but he couldn't. Eventually, Jerry had reached him, and when Jerry's ghost did, Jerry's ghost started to stab Spike repeatedly, slowly but surely killing him. Jerry's ghost had killed Spike and Spike's owner. Jerry's ghost started to laugh. He started to speak in a demonic voice, saying that if anyone dared to enter this house, he was going to kill them. What I just described to you was the 17th episode of Tom and Jerry that Gene Deitch had created. For whatever reason, this goes so much deeper than just the first 3 episodes of Tom's Basement. This episode was titled Tom's Basement 4. I don't know, but there may be even more horrifying episodes that Gene Deitch had created, where Jerry is an evil psychopath, murdering anyone he comes across. I've just discovered the next episode, and it's titled Tom's Basement 5. And in this episode, Jerry doesn't kill a pet and its owner. He kills a family. Now, let me tell you the horrifying atrocities committed in this episode. Jerry had killed Tom and Butch, and then Tom's ghost had killed Jerry, but then Jerry's ghost killed Spike. And now there are new people moving into the house where Jerry's spirit awaited anyone who dared enter. The family had just moved in, and they were starting to unpack. There was the mom, the dad, and 2 kids, a boy and a girl. And the kids started to explore the house. As they were exploring, they came across a basement, and they both decided to check it out. As they started to dive deeper into the dark depths of the basement, they were a little creeped out, but they still continued. As they reached the ground of the basement, they looked around, and it seemed to be a normal-looking basement. Until, out of the corner of their eyes, they saw something. They saw what looked to be a mouse holding a knife. But when they went to get a closer look, it was gone. They both looked at each other and agreed that this was weird. But then their parents called them and said it was time for dinner. And so they just forgot about it and went upstairs. A couple of weeks had passed and the kids had completely forgotten about what had happened. The daughter then remembered what she saw when she went down into the basement with her brother, and she decided to go and see if she could find that mouse. As she walked into the basement, she felt a shiver go down her spine, but she ignored it and continued walking down the stairs until finally she reached the floor. And then she saw it. She saw the brown mouse holding a knife. She was scared. She didn't know what to do. The mouse slowly began walking towards her. And this mouse was Jerry. The daughter tried to run up the stairs and out the door, but all of a sudden, the door slammed shut. She tried to open it, but it wouldn't budge. And then, it was as if something pulled her, and she fell down the stairs and onto the hard floor, breaking her leg. And then she saw Jerry slowly walking towards her, holding that knife. And then, once Jerry had reached her, he began to stab her repeatedly. Then Jerry stopped, and the girl was dead. A couple of days had passed, and the family started to worry. They didn't know where she went, or what happened to her. And then they started to smell something foul. And so, all three of them, the mother, the father, and the son, decided to go and see what it was. As they walked down the basement steps, they looked in horror to see that their daughter and sister was dead. They didn't even have time to process what they were looking at, because the ghost of Jerry appeared, and they just looked at him, confused. Then the boy remembered. The boy tried to run up the stairs, but the door slammed shut and wouldn't budge. The mother then ran up the stairs to try and help her son, but all of a sudden she was flung from the top of the stairs into the wall, breaking her back and breaking her neck. ultimately killing her. Her body fell to the ground. This angered the father, and he ran towards Jerry. But he was suddenly lifted. Jerry lifted the knife as well, and the father was flung into the knife, stabbing him in his stomach. And Jerry slowly, and the father fell to the ground in a bloody puddle. And now the son was the only one left. He screamed in horror. His family was dead, and soon he would meet the same fate. The son was paralyzed in fear. He couldn't move. Jerry slowly started to walk towards him, eventually reaching him. The boy pleaded to Jerry to let him live. In response to this, Jerry lifted his knife and slit the boy's throat, killing him. And once again, Jerry had killed anyone who dared move into this house or even entered it. Tom saw this from the afterlife and knew he had to stop Jerry by any means necessary, once and for all. Tom had seen the atrocities that Jerry had committed. He had murdered so many people. Even though Tom's ghost had killed Jerry, Jerry's spirit still remained in the house, killing anyone who dared step foot into it. But this last family that Jerry had murdered was the last straw for Tom, and he knew he had to stop Jerry once and for all. Back where it all started, the basement. So, while Jerry's spirit was waiting to come into the house so he could kill them, Tom appeared in front of him. And to help him out, Tom brought along Butch and Spike, who Jerry had also killed. And it was as if they were all alive. The three of them just looked at Jerry, ready to finally take him down. Jerry looked at them and just laughed. And he brought out his knife that he used to kill so many people with. Butch and Spike looked around the basement for weapons, and Butch found a baseball bat, and Spike found a sledgehammer. And then Tom pulled out another knife, ready to do to Jerry what he had done to the three of them. And then the battle commenced. Jerry disappeared from their line of vision. Jerry then reappeared behind Butch, who was caught off guard. But when he saw Jerry, he slammed the bat down on the ground, trying to crush Jerry. But he stopped the bat mid-swing. With the powers of a spirit, he pushed Butch, and Butch flew into the wall, and that knocked Butch out. Spike then saw this and then ran towards Jerry, slamming the sledgehammer down where Jerry was. But Jerry managed to dodge this, and he then reappeared behind Spike, using his knife to stab Spike in the leg. Tom saw this and started to run towards Jerry. But Jerry used his spirit powers to stop Tom mid-run and sent him flying against the wall. And then Jerry appeared behind Spike's neck. And then Jerry used his knife to slit Spike's throat. And since Spike was already dead and was killed by another ghost, this destroyed Spike's spirit. And there would be nothing left of him. Not even his ghost. Butch then regained consciousness and picked up his bat and started to run towards Jerry. But Jerry just laughed, knowing he was just gonna kill Butch and that he hadn't even learned his lesson. Jerry then used his spirit powers to pull Butch towards him, and Butch flew into Jerry's knife, and Jerry started to stab him repeatedly. Jerry stabbed Butch multiple times, and this ultimately killed Butch. And since he was already dead, like Spike, his ghost was destroyed, and it was as if he had never even existed. As Jerry finished Butch off, Tom was regaining consciousness after having been flung into the wall. He saw that Spike and Butch were both dead, and that it was now up to him. He grabbed his knife and started to run towards Jerry, and Jerry started to run towards him. This was it. This was going to be the final strike. They ran at each other, sprinting at full speed. Tom thought he had the upper hand, but Jerry caught him off guard. As they were running, Jerry disappeared from Tom's line of vision, and he then appeared right behind Tom, floating in the air. Then Jerry used his knife and decapitated Tom, killing him instantly and ultimately destroying his ghost, just like Butch and Spike. Jerry laughed maniacally once more, knowing that they didn't even stand a chance. But then Jerry realized something. He was so much powerful now, and when he was alive, no one could stop him now, and he could do whatever he wanted. Then he came up with a plan. Since he was so powerful, he could travel in between alternate realities. And now Jerry was going to haunt and kill every version of Tom that he came across. This was going to be his punishment for Tom even attempting to stop him. And so now Jerry would travel between alternate realities, brutally murdering any version of Tom he came across. Jerry had finished off Tom once and for all, Tom's ghost, along with Spike's ghost and Butch's ghost, tried to stop Jerry, but he killed them. And since he killed them when they were ghosts, they disappeared forever, not going to the afterlife, just not existing. And now, there was no one who could stop Jerry. Years passed, and Jerry's ghost stayed in the basement of the house. Anyone who dared enter his domain would die. And over the years, the house had grown in legend. And legend was that it was haunted, and that anyone who stepped inside would die. And some people, daring enough, did. And Jerry had pleasure in brutally murdering them. He did this for decades, but was eventually getting bored of it. So, Jerry came up with a new plan. He enjoyed when he killed Tom, and he wanted to keep doing that over and over. And eventually, he found a way to do it. He found a way to travel between the multiverse and see the different incarnations and versions of Tom. And he started to kill them off, one by one, enjoying every second of it, as Tom is his mortal enemy. And he would use his signature murdering weapon, his knife. He went to so many different universes that eventually the ghost of Jerry lost count. And when he did show up, he would appear in front of that version of Tom and slowly walk towards them. If they tried to run, he would slam them against the wall or find any other means of stopping him in his tracks. And Jerry would eventually corner the Tom. And when Jerry did, he would either gut Tom or kill him in some other horrific way with his knife. And he did this over and over and over for what seemed like years on end. Eventually, Jerry succeeded in killing every version of Tom, and he was now sure there wasn't any left. And so Jerry went back to the basement, waiting for anyone who dare to come in, and if they did, he was going to kill them. And now he waits in Tom's basement, or more accurately, Jerry's basement.